Our last set of speakers for this session is the Shell Creek Watershed team. So first up, we've got John Hanna. He's been a longtime member, and he's going to kind of introduce this session, and we'll hopefully get the slides all in the right order. That's what we're up here discussing.
So we've been at this a while, about 20 years now. What we want to do basically is we want to touch on how the Shell Creek Watershed Group got started, the student participation in the stream quality, outreach by the group, and where the group is going to be going in years to come. So there's going to be a little bit of repetition in here because we didn't really get together and compare notes as to what we were going to say, and so you'll see some things that are going to duplicate, but don't worry about it. It'll all work out in the end. So we kind of are an example, I think, of something that's happened that's kind of been different and interesting. So we're kind of a real life demonstration of the possible. So consider the following. In a little more than 15 years, the following has happened in Shell Creek Watershed. We went from less than 10% no-till crops to 80%. We were delisted for atrazine impairment by the EPA, first stream ever. We've gone from being a dead stream to a producing fishery. I'm not used to using a microphone, I'm sorry. And there's now catfish that are 4 pounds catfish getting caught out of the stream, and that's going from completely dead. There was dumping in manure in the stream. People had actually dumped the manure right in the stream, and so we're no longer, that's not any longer happening as near as we can tell anyway. And the flooding is reduced because of the better water absorption in the upstream, a lot of it because of the no-till that's there now. Medium floods have become smaller floods. Schuyler now has a levee on the north side that's, and that levee was kind of a result of some of the stuff that Shell Creek Group did. So there wasn't a flood there in 2019 this year. So this is our Shell Creek is a locally led volunteer group with many organizations contributing resources. Success for our groups today would not be, it would be not just one community here or anything like that. It would be a whole bunch of us. But anyway, so the first speaker, if we can get our slides right, the first speaker that's going to talk is Gene Wissenburg, who's from Newman Grove. He was ag teacher in Newman Grove for 34 years and then retired in 2002, and he's been working as a feed guy at the co-op in Newman Grove. So he's kind of here to talk to you about how this all got started. He was one of the founding fathers of the organization.
You know, it's really interesting because this October, we're celebrating our 20th year as a watershed group. And, you know, I know you can hear me because I'm using my teacher voice. And I really think it's pretty interesting the way every program I've seen so far all kind of matches up on some of the same basic tenets, and maybe they even planned it that way, I'm not sure. But anyway, Thomas Jefferson once wrote, while the farmer holds the title to the land, actually it belongs to all the people because civilization itself rests upon the soil. And I know Mrs. Sweeter and some of the ag students from Newman Grove just got back from a land using contest. Soil, water quality, erosion, all those things are big topics for us. Those thoughts in mind, 20 years ago, an NRCS soil conservationist by the name of Darla Jewell organized some brainstorming meetings in Schuyler, Platte Center, and Newman Grove to talk about the Shell Creek watershed and what we could do because of the flooding problems, the runoff, the erosion, and all those issues. You know, we'd had 200-year floods in the 10 years prior. And so it wasn't too hard to get some people involved. You know, we didn't know exactly what we were going to do, but at least we got involved. Shell Creek Watershed spans 110 miles, 300,000 acres. It's a huge watershed, 80% cropland. So it's a watershed that has a lot of erosion issues, a lot of runoff issues, a lot of dirty issues. We had necessity for action. We got people together. We did brainstorming sessions. We got together in November of '99 to actually put down some goals and put some goals on paper. And there was those 4 goals. And number 1 was flooding, because that was the one that was costing us the most money. We also looked at reestablishing land in the CRP. Once again, you know, the original CRP program lasted 10 years. We had a lot of land coming out of CRP. Wanted to try to get it back in. Well, that worked a little bit, not too much. And most of you know that CRP is a program that's not real popular anymore. Third goal was to try to work on water control structures. And we had a lot of things in mind. Ralph Peakey says we need 1,000 little dams on the upper end of Shell Creek. And that was a great goal. Not real practical, but you know, that was what we needed. Sediment basins took the place of a lot of those little dams. And number 4 goal was to improve surface and groundwater quality. And that was the one initially we probably thought the least of. You know, flooding was our main concern. But you know, if you can improve the surface and groundwater quality, and if you can improve some of the things with soil and soil structure, the flooding becomes less of an issue in the long run. Our goals are great, but where do we go? You know, we floundered for, I think, about the first 2 years. You know, we didn't think we were getting anything done. You know, it's tough because soil conservation and land treatments doesn't go fast. Darla Jewell took another job. She left us. And all of a sudden we're kind of like, you know, where do we go from here? Well, we were lucky because we had a really good NRCS office in Columbus. Lower Platte North NRD was great to work with. Platte County FSA, they came to our meetings. Nebraska DEQ, UNL Extension, Game and Parks, Pheasants Forever, they all became partners with us, and they're all interested in trying to do something for Shell Creek. So it really worked to our advantage. We got a little DEQ grant in 2001. Used the funds to do a survey. You know, you can come up with all these neat ideas, but if the farmers aren't going to do it, big deal, right? We had lots of great ideas, but we surveyed farmers and landowners in the Shell Creek watershed and say, what would you do if it was made available to you? And that was, I think, a good starting point for us to find out what farmers actually would do. So we started to target a few best management practices that seem practical and things that farmers would actually do. Pheasants Forever helped us with a person to go out and promote this to farmers and landowners, and that was a key issue. Since our watershed was so big, by consensus we decided to kind of break it up into some little mini watersheds. Pie and ice cream meetings were really good. North branch of Shell Creek, South branch of Shell Creek, you know, we got people together and talked about what we could do. New DEQ grants, Nebraska Environmental Trust grants, that came through with some money so we could do some cost share. And we worked to improve those upper branches of the Shell Creek first. And as time went on, we kept moving our target areas downstream. It kept working. 2002 was a milestone year for our group because Mr. Sire here and some of the Newman Grove biology students started working on water quality index and water quality testing. It was a great, great opportunity to involve youth in our program. And you know, if you involve youth in the program, you know what happens? Parents and grandparents come to your meeting. What a deal. Instead of having 20 people at a meeting, you invite the NRD in, you invite the students in, now you get 80 people at a meeting. What a deal. DEQ, Environmental Trust, kept supporting the Shell Creek, and along with Lower Platte North NRD, and a real key issue at the time was Prairie Land RC&D. We don't have much for RC&D groups anymore, but at that time, Prairie Land was vital to us. They were the vehicle to receive and disperse money for our grant funds. It worked really well. 2004, NRCS Office Columbus hired a full-time person to work primarily on Shell Creek. Another key issue, another key item for us. Continued to receive some grant money. We saw a lot of new no-till acres. We were able to hire a part-time person just to help administer the grant funds. Once again, put out some newsletters for Shell Creek Watershed Improvement Group. And those are some of the practices that we put together. The next 10 years, you know, now up to around 2012 or 13, you know, we concentrated a lot of things. One of the things that we'd never even thought of to start with, but Nebraska NDEQ says, we've got a lot of sewer systems out here. They're just open pipes running into the ditch. So we put together a sewer system upgrade cost share. And we had a lot of farmers and landowners take part in that one. That was a huge one. And once again, water quality improvement. We didn't get real far with livestock manure containment structures, but we did one good one. A lot of well decommissioning. That was a real popular project, still is. We did habitat buffers, contour buffers, some of the normal things, sediment basins. Not a lot with the farm ponds like Ralph Peakey would have wanted, but we did a lot of sediment basins. Fast forward to 2015. A new project idea has evolved with the Shell Creek Watershed, and this is bank stabilization projects. And we completed our first bank stabilization project in 2017, and yes, it did survive the flood this spring. We were hoping it would, and it did. And if there's no, if you can't test it any more than that, that's for sure. Because we all know the historic floods in all of the basins this spring. Final highlight, 2018. We had our celebration because the Shell Creek Watershed was delisted as atrazine impaired. And the first creek of this type to be delisted in the United States. Scott Pruitt, EPA director, was there. Pete Ricketts, our governor, was there. Eric Gottschalk, our local NRD chair, was there. We had we had some Newman Grove and Schuyler High School students there. And they were putting on demonstrations on water quality testing. You know where we held this thing? We held on a bridge over Shell Creek, right next door to the bank stabilization project that we completed in 2017. Great location. Big question. How did we last for 20 years? You know, I'm sure none of us in the original group thought past the first year or two, let alone 20 years. We're good friends. That's the first thing. We made some really good friendships. You know, it's a people thing and it's a watershed thing. If you don't trust, if you don't like the people you're working with, it will not last. Guarantee it. Secondly, I think we're just too damn stubborn to quit. Do we have any golfers out here? Any golfers? Okay. This is like a golf game. That one good shot keeps you coming back.